Good evening to colleagues who might be following us on Facebook. This is on Facebook Live. My name is Maher Nasser. I'm the Director of the Outreach Division in the Department of Global Communications, where the UN Publications is, and the bookshop is part of that. We're very excited to have you here for this book launch event with talk to the authors. I think this week, the 11th NPT conference is starting, so we thought it was really good to have a book that connects and relates to the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan in August. Last year, I spent a significant part of last year in Japan as the Commissioner General of the United Nations at Expo 2025 in Osaka. And I did visit Osaka first and then Hiroshima on the 6th of August. I was there for the 80th commemoration of the memory of the first atomic bomb dropped on a civilian city. And I must say, you can never walk away unchanged, having witnessed the impact and, of course, the very solemn ceremony and memories that are preserved in the Peace Museum in Hiroshima. It's amazing to see the two cities today vibrant and look as unscathed, but to see the images of what it looked like was sobering. And I think it's really important that we keep revisiting that and the important work that is being done at the United Nations for nuclear non-proliferation and to ensure that no other civilian population is ever subjected to such horrific attack. The United Nations Secretary General, in his remarks at the 10th conference, NPT conference last year, said that humanity is just one misunderstanding, one miscalculation away from nuclear annihilation. And perhaps it is even closer this year than it was last year. So in the UN, we have reports, we have resolutions. To many people around the world, it could be written in a different language because they couldn't necessarily always decipher diplomatic language and sometimes technical material and content. But this is why this bookshop and events like this and books that speak to people in language that they understand, whether it's poetry or whether it's stories, it is important to connect at that level. And I spent this morning reading actually the poem and writings of Tamiki, Hara, and I couldn't help but I took a note on one of them because yes, the poetry, and you will hear more about it from the author and artists here, there's a lot of pain, a lot of reflection about his own short life that he ended on the 13th of March 1951. But there's also hope. And this is the paragraph that I wanted to read from what he said. And yet, I feel I have always held a vision of an age of harmony in which a fresh spring murmurs quietly in every heart. A time when individuals will no longer be crushed. And I think that's what we all want, a time when no individual is or can be crushed. We owe it to humanity. There are 8.2 billion of us today. So we're very happy here to have with us Sandy Walker, an artist who accomplished exactly that by bringing those poems back to us today, and he will speak more about the illustrations that he provided for the My Deepest Desire, this book in your hand today. I guess you can buy it from the bookshop, and I think they will be happy to autograph it for you if you're interested in that. Tamiki Hara was a survivor of the bombing in Hiroshima, Hibakusha, as we know them today. He is known for his work on atomic bomb literature genre. And Walker is joined by Jaqueline Cabasso, the executive director of Western State Legal Foundation, an NGO founded in 1982 for the abolition of nuclear weapons. Lynne Elizabeth, publisher of New Village Press, is also with them here. So also very grateful to a former colleague of ours who will be doing the moderation, Tom Kono. He was for many, many years working in the Office of Disarmament Affairs. We saw him at Osaka in Expo multiple times last year. So I will now hand over to him in his capacity as the executive advisor to Mayors for Peace, a fellow of the United Nations Institute for Disarmament Research, UNIDIR, and a former senior UN political affairs officer. Tom, over to you.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Mahel. You have done such a great job. So I have to skip most of the script I already prepared for introducing myself. And Mahel and I have been working in the UN. He was everywhere, starting with Palestine, and then he was also Vienna. And here now in New York, he is the head of Division and Information Outreach. But one thing I was so happy about is the Secretary General appointed Mahel as his representative, Commissioner General, to the Expo, the head of the UN Pavilion of the Expo Osaka Kansai Expo 2025. And my family is from Osaka, so I went to Expo 2025 and visited the Expo Pavilion, UN Pavilion 4 or 5 times, and his staff really, Shota Urano is now seated next to Mahel, and I was so touched by their hospitality, and also UN Pavilion was quite amazing. It really shows what the UN is and a huge hope and bright future of the humanity, and that was something which I took as I came away with, and that is what we really needed the most. Anyway, without further delay, I'm honored to moderate the great discussion, this book launch. So let me just tell you about how this book, My Deepest Desire, and also Tamiki Hara, in Japanese Hara Tamiki, is a quite well-known poet in Japan. There is a genre in Japan called Genbaku Bungaku, which is after World War II, the particular writers, artists, they express their feeling, their tragic, their deep emotional feeling after the devastation of their cities like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And those writers and artists are often known atomic bomb artists or literary figures. So Tamiki Hara is one of those. And this is a new translation of Tamiki Hara by quite accomplished translator, Lisa Dalby, who unfortunately cannot be with us, but she is the amazing translator. If you can read, the first part is all in English, and the great book comes with original Japanese text. So if you can read the Japanese, there's a Japanese text towards the end. And also, this is not only a new translation, but thanks to the Lynne and thanks to the illustrator, Sandy Walker, who is again made amazing illustration, each page, full page now. And so this is not just a book, this is a real art. And I really thank you, Jackie, who is organizing this whole event, and also the publication itself is Lynne. If I'm wrong, just correct me. And Jackie has been a long time advocate of nuclear disarmament, peace, and also legendary in this area. So she gave closing remarks, along with, let me announce the presence of Mayor Matsui in Hiroshima, and he also contributed kindly the short paragraph. Can I read? It's, the memory of the atomic bombing casts a dark shadow and a profound sense of loss upon the human soul, tracing a heart that continued to long for life even in the presence of death. This work quietly calls to mind the enduring prayer for peace that Hiroshima has shared with the world. And Mayors, he's also president of Mayors for Peace, and I'm lucky to have worked as an advisor to his organization, Mayors for Peace. So without, I like to hear the illustrator Sandy and also publisher Lynne and Jackie regarding this book. So let me just start. Just short introduction of the author. The author, Tamiki Hara, was born in 1905 and he passed in 1951. He was a well-known Japanese writer and poet. And born in Hiroshima, he lived through the atomic bombing in 1945. And in the years preceding his death in 1951, he wrote about the destruction he witnessed, and also in autobiographical short stories. And it's interesting to see that he lost his wife before the bombing. So he was already grieving when the atomic bomb struck Hiroshima. So his emotional this depth, the sadness, really came across in his literature. So how he juxtaposed in his own personal tragedy with this unspeakable tragedy caused by atomic bombing. So if you could read this sort of prose poem, just not regular poem like a tanka or haiku, it's more like a prose to prose, so we can get more information and read quite flawlessly. So let me just start the discussion by introducing the first, the artist, Sandy Walker. And Sandy Walker is a painter and printmaker and visual art. His work is in the collection of many museums, including Museum of Modern Art, MoMA here, and Metropolitan Museum also here, and also Whitney Museum in downtown, and in the fine arts museums in San Francisco and Smithsonian American Art Museum in Washington, D.C. So the first, let me ask Sandy, how did you discover this prose by Tamiki Hara?
That's I'm glad to share that, and I really appreciate everything you said. And I'm not sure how much more should be said. Really, really, the appreciation of the book and the writer. I was involved or sensitive to the bombing. I'm born in 1942, so I was a child, and in the 60s I became increasingly sensitive to justice issues, and then a friend of mine did artistic demonstrations on the streets of New York commemorating the bombing in the 80s. And then my wife and I did collaboration performances in 1995 in San Francisco. We did a dance performance then, an evening-long performance, memorializing the 50th. So during that time, I was reading literature around related to the experience, and I read this, what I like to call a prose poem, and I was deeply moved by it. I kept it with me for years. I wanted to make an artwork relating to it, and slowly it evolved for me so that I somehow over the years, I had a moment, I was able to create the imagery that accompanied the text. And I like to say it's not illustration, it's accompaniment.
Oh.
And it's designed specifically as Lynne has laid it out in the book, so that the imagery relates to the particular text that it's next to. Then I also decided to do a handwritten version of the text. And I created an artwork that's larger than this one and has the handwriting next to it. Well, that was how I more deeply identified with Tamiki Hara. It was a long process. At any rate, I created a work that was handwritten and that was in cursive. And I think Lynne will take over from here, because the artwork I still treasure and share is unreadable to a lot of people because they can't read my handwriting. So anyway, Lynne will take over. That's where Lynne came in, and that was 2 years ago.
So if it's okay.
I think Tom had another question for you, but I could,
Oh.
I could pick up
I can
on.
go back and forth.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I can pick up on bringing, well, the fact that Sandy gave me the gift of his ink drawings that he had done. The originals are about, 3 or 4 times, probably 4 times the size of this book. And his handwritten text accompany, on the oppositional page throughout. It was really, magnificent. And I was so moved by the writing, the story, and Sandy's way of somehow, bringing its own special life. And I carried it with me to Hawaii to show to a Japanese born painter, artist, who had anyway, she'd been dedicated her entire life to creating peace, and she unfortunately could not read the writing, and she had difficulty turning the large pieces of art. And so she said to me, this would be so much easier to read if it were typeset. I can read English, but not English cursive. And I thought, this is a beautiful idea for a book for a larger audience. And that was Mayumi Oda. And some of you may know Mayumi Oda's magnificent paintings of goddesses that are like tankas, so on. Anyway, I have highest regard for Mayumi. And so she's the one then who inspired me to make something that would be more commercial book size. And so I thought, I don't want this to be disrespectful to the art or the story, but I thought it would be great. And Sandy was so open to the idea, and so anyway, I'm really grateful.
Thank you, Lynne. I just I should have introduced Lynne as a publisher of this book, the New Village Press. Without her, this wouldn't have made possible. And thank you so much. So just I look at this, and each page has an oppositional page. There is a accompaniment, you call it, the illustration. So if you read the passage, you have some imagination, and then that image you could get from there. And it's really amazing to just read original Japanese, or just a small print and all those things. And that itself is quite powerful. And particularly when she talked about his wife. But if you look at accompaniment, that you can connect to how the author, Hara, really felt at the moment he was writing. So I really appreciate your original idea, and Naomi, I did not know, so
You
that
did.
actually become this book. So just stop my narrative and talking about the book. And so question to Sandy, how did you encounter this in the first place?
How did I encounter it?
Yeah, this
Well, as I was saying, I just was doing reading around the
Reading,
performance, and that's how I came on his writing. That's how it.
just happenstance.
I just was doing other reading about the direct experience of the bombing, and in the literature, read it in a Grove Press collection, and it was a different translation than this. We're blessed by the new translation also, I think. I like it, but that's not the translation that I read originally.
Do you think this is better?
I like it. Yes, I do. I do. But I don't read Japanese, and I have to share with you, I've not been to Japan.
Oh, maybe time to go.
Time to go.
Japan,
I
Hiroshima,
hope there's
Nagasaki.
time still. Yeah.
And you will probably understand more how it works.
But you can see that my art is certainly indebted to Japanese art as well as Western art. So.
Thank you. And I also like to bring Jackie Cabasso in the discussion. And Jackie is I think a founder too of the West. No, I'm sorry. That it's a really well-respected, well-known the West State legal
Foundation. Legal foundation.
Foundation, and she has been executive advisor to Mayor Matsui and the organization called Mayors for Peace, which I'm also some as the fellow advisor. So she has been working on disarmament, abolition, and more broadly all even climate issue, everything for years. And I leave the elaboration to you. So, Jack, can you put the context on this publication in the current international atmosphere? You don't have to explain what the Iran war is. But
No. Well, thank you very much. First, I wanted to thank Lynne and Sandy because they and Lisa, the translator, collectively approached me and said we would like to donate the proceeds from this book to Western States Legal Foundation. Would you be interested? And like any struggling nonprofit anti-nuclear organization, the answer was a resounding yes. So thank you for that. I wrote a little blurb for the book, which sort of sums up my feelings about it. And I can talk more about the current situation, but the main thing is that this is not some piece of quaint memorabilia. It is extremely relevant to the times that we're living in. Tamiki Hara's final work stands as a prescient warning. Today, the growing dangers of wars among nuclear-armed states are palpable and intolerable. Nuclear weapons must be eliminated before they eliminate us. As the 2024 recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, Nihon Hidankyo, the Association of Japanese Atomic Bomb Survivors, has declared nuclear weapons and human beings cannot coexist. We must demand that the governments of the United States and the other nuclear-armed states commence good faith negotiations on the global elimination of nuclear weapons without further delay. As immediate steps, they must forswear nuclear threats and halt and reverse the new nuclear arms race. And this could not be more timely than today. Today is when the U.S.-Iran ceasefire is set to expire. We don't know what's going to happen. Today, the 11th Review Conference of the Nuclear Nonproliferation Treaty is getting underway. This is the only time, it's the only treaty which obligates the 5 original nuclear-armed states to end the nuclear arms race at an early date, that was 1970, and to pursue negotiations in good faith on the complete elimination of nuclear weapons, okay? It entered into force in 1970. Today, all of the nuclear armed states are doing disarmament in reverse. They're modernizing their arsenals. In some cases, they're increasing the size of their arsenals. They're increasingly relying on threats of nuclear weapons use, as we've seen it with Russia and Ukraine, and with the US and Israel in Iran. And it is perhaps the most dangerous moment regarding nuclear weapons, even since Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So it could not be more timely. And so that's why I'm particularly grateful to be here today to help launch this book.
Well, thank you. I have been working on nuclear issues for not as long as you, but for 40 years. And in comparison with the 1970s and 80s, now there's such a complacence or ignorance that if you ask nuclear weapons, most people, what's that? It's a nuclear weapon. And particularly in Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the nuclear weapons are something very evil. And but in the US, nuclear weapon is a good weapon because nuclear weapons basically help end the war and probably saved 2 or 3 million American servicemen who would have been killed if US armed forces invaded mainland Japan. But that is a kind of PR, whitewashing what really happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So those real memories of devastation caused by Hiroshima and Nagasaki, caused by the atomic bombing in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, have been gradually fading away, particularly atomic bomb survivors are aging, and now the average 87 years old, and it's now only less than 100,000 people, still that many, but dwindling very quickly, and in less than 10 years, I don't know how many people, so Kibaksha will remain. So this is very important publication, which will help reverse this trend, or at least arrest this slide into oblivion. So I look at those black and white accompaniment pictures and reading the original translation, not original, but the new translation, people realize what happened and help them imagine, or reimagine. Some people who really know such things, the reality of the atomic bombings. And that is a very important thing people should remember. And it's good, because we have a
Could I add to that?
Please.
Yeah, I emphasize the importance of the arts, and in this case, he was an artist, and so am I, and the arts are experienced one-on-one, individually. So we both have, these global issues, but we also have very individual issues, personal issues. This is the testimony of an individual man who had the poetic talent to share with us what he was going through. And I think above all, and that's what I was really moved by. And I was, in working on it, I identified with him. And I like to say I became him and he became me during the work and over the years. But the point is, it's one-on-one. I was relating to him. You can relate to this work of art. It doesn't deny the policy, because actually policy is made up of millions of individuals like him. And, so it's a duality. But the treasure that he gave us was one-on-one, individual. You can read this book, you can read it, and have a direct experience and understand on an individual level. I also treasure the fact that he was struggling. He was struggling, trying to make sense out of his life and what he had been through before, during, and after. And it's a very, very human story, and I think we all can relate, but we relate on an individual level. I could say more, but maybe that, you know. And we're interested to hear from other people too. So,
Tom, there's just one passage I'd like to share, if I may.
Yes.
This is just one passage of his writing that really speaks to our situation today, I think. It's on page 10. He says, I was just drifting off to sleep when my head exploded with an electric shock. My whole body convulsed, then pure silence. I opened my eyes and tested my other senses, all working. So what happened? What made me explode against my will? Where did it come from? I simply don't know. Maybe it was all the things I failed to accomplish in my life bottled up inside me finally exploding. Or perhaps it was the memory of that morning of the atomic bomb coming back to haunt me. I can't say. I didn't think I was affected mentally by the horror of Hiroshima, but it could be that the shock from that time has always been lurking in the distance, watching all of us victims, waiting to drive us mad.
Thank you, Jackie. Actually, I was going to read out the page just preceded that one. But this is totally different because he was talking about his wife. So just let me, if you can bear with me, just a few minutes. My isolation evaporated into the air. A memory of you, my dearest wife. Dust in your eye, causing tears to spangle your eyelashes. My mother, removing a splinter from my finger with a needle. Such trivial little things come floating into my mind now that you are no longer here. Each one morning, I dreamed of a tooth. You came to me from beyond the grave and said, "Where does it hurt?" You gently stroked my tooth with your finger, and that woke me up. The pain was gone. So this is totally different. The one page, this is the following, this page followed by what you just read.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I thought this book is very unique, because of personal loss and his experience of atomic bomb. And then it's connected by amazing accompanying pictures. And thank you, Lynne, you embraced this idea of this book. So, would you share what really struck you as a really most emotional appeal as a author in this from the text, if you can identify it?
I do remember actually the morning that I read Sandy's original, and it was a full moon, and I had awakened while the moon was still up, so it wasn't quite morning. And I spread out the book on a table, and it was warm, so I was outside, and so I just took in each page of the story in an unusually mindful way. I had just awakened, so I wasn't bothered by the busyness of the day, and what spoke to me was Tamiki Hara's ability to actually, his awareness of his thoughts, his awareness of his consciousness, and it had the kind of freshness that you can do days of meditation to achieve, and he somehow came on it easily and honestly, maybe not easily, but who knows, maybe he struggled to write this piece, I'm not sure, but it feels as if it comes out very naturally from the writer. And I know that Sandy's had talked about carrying this prose poem with him for a long time, and then it really getting up, I don't know if it was the middle of the night for you either, with the urge to create these ink drawings in response to it. So it wasn't so much a direct, it was a free flow of expression. And so it was a rare combination of that connection to our human consciousness and what is so very human about us. And of course, as Jackie points out, getting in touch with what is beautiful about human life and human creativity is important to remember. We are not numbers. We are not enemies. We are not nations. We are individuals, and hopefully we can somehow get back in touch with that and end the insanity of nuclear weapons.
Thank you. Is there any other part you like to talk about?
Well, she's reflecting that the fact that this was a 25-year or more project for me, or process, and it was right that, I mean, I lived with it, I had the materials, and then one night, I like to say, in the dark night, it all happened at once. You know, I was reading, and the images are not intellectually planned out from the text. And it just came in the way that art does. And I think the writing came that way too. And the project, anyway, like I said, it evolved over many, many years. And at the same time, it happened.
Thank you, Sandy. When I just picked up this book this morning, and I read on the screen, which is a basically PDF version. The big difference is if you open the book, you can see both together. Screen, you can see the text, and then you scroll down, and you can see the picture. So you don't really get what the whole idea of the juxtaposition of the text and image, or even art piece. And if I read this first, rather than on screen, computer screen, probably I stop to think what this really means. That's an introduction to this narrative. And I think that's another way for you probably to approach this whole work. And I think one interesting thing is here. Sure, there's a lot of meditation, a lot of sleepless nights, things, descriptions are here. But I felt the struggle of the author to live a full life as a victim of atomic bomb. I was kind of handicapped, basically. I was struggling, living with all agony and pains. But he's trying to live a different, fuller life. That comes across in this book. And I think this is the amazing thing about the books written by atomic bomb survivor who can express his emotions so freely and powerfully. And because of that, he passed away 75 years ago. But you can still talk to him and listen to him.
Yes.
And that is the beauty of the artist and writer. And I just, without any qualification, I recommend. Hopefully, you will buy and look at it. But just look at it. And I have some questions, but I think maybe we should open. Yeah, that's I was going to. It would be great. So, if you have any question, yeah, please do not hesitate.
Any questions? About process or? I have a question. Jackie, how do you intend to kind of utilize this book and this experience to further the work of your NGO?
Well, I think there are going to be a number of book launches here in New York, and also, and there already was in DC and in California. And so we're going to try to arrange some of these in bookstores and places where we will attract a broader segment of society than just talking to our usual fellow activists. So I think that's the most concrete way, because I think that, as I think we've tried to express here, the expression here is accessible in a different way than just slamming people with facts and figures. So it's another very welcome tool in our public education and public awareness raising toolbox. And of course, we can make reference to this launch here in the United Nations as a very impressive and meaningful event for us with the launch, and we really appreciate the UN bookstore welcoming us.
Of course, well, it's one of the pleasures of my job to be associated with the bookshop. So thank you.
Sandy, can you explain how the painting corresponded to the text, either in a particular page or in the book in general? I know it's a difficult question, but I think you understand that.
I know you don't want me to say I can't explain that. It is inevitable in the sense that, well, like I said, the actual ink drawings were created during a dark night. That's a reference to the dark night of the soul. And the writing obviously comes from that also. And it was literally a dark night in the mountains that I had carried the content. I had read it many times. I had the material. I didn't know how I wanted to create something, and then it just happened, really, and it came out of the writing. I'm tempted to quote the quote from the Raphael show that I saw yesterday at the museum, where what was it? You know what I'm talking about here, right? That he used a quote that painting is deaf and poetry is blind. So that's the unity that we got here. Does that help?
Yeah, I just wanted to first applaud Lynne and Sandy for making this a benefit for Western states. That's really a generous thing. And I know it will make a difference because Lynne has also published a book with Mayumi Oda called Random Kindness that for years has been bringing in a little bit of royalties to our group Inochi that Mayumi and I started in 1992 with Kaz Tanahashi. And I just want to applaud you, Lynne, for your consistency in supporting activist causes through your publishing. But it also occurs to me, having seen these paintings of Sandy's, which are beautiful and striking, that it would potentially be a great companion book to Random Kindness. I assume you've probably shared that one with Sandy and Mayumi's paintings, but that they could definitely be a pair of books that would tell the story in two different ways. So again, and then Jackie, it's fantastic that the words that you added to the book. So kudos to everyone, and especially to Lynne for her support of activist causes through her publishing and through artists and writers. It's really appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you, Claire Greensfelder.
So I came in late, so I hope I don't repeat anything. I did hear Cal's question, but I'm still wondering. I have some of your work, as you know, and I'm wondering if this book came from you've told us it came from poetry, but what about all the others? Have you always worked with something that inspired you in the way of words, or were they figures? In my case, I have the Jita suite, so I
Yeah.
imagine as a dancer. But still, you feel this is something brand new.
Well, that's a fair question. I don't know, for this audience, but yes, literature and words have been a lot of sources of inspiration for me. You know that I'm having this show in DC right now titled Green Mansions, basically, which is a book. Maybe you don't know the book, but at any rate, I created a lot of work out of the memory of reading the book Green Mansions by Hudson, which is a book that I'm sorry, you all might not have heard of, but it was something that was presented to me when I was about 14. So it's a book back in the day, but many young people read it, and it left a deep impression on me, and I created a whole lot of work out of that. For example, so it's an inspiration and source for
Trees.
Trees.
You explained the tree, yes. I think Sandy, like Mayumi Oda, also knows the importance of nature and the wildness of nature and the beauty of nature. And so that's also, it's not just the humans that we hope to spare from nuclear catastrophe, but our beautiful, beautiful planet.
I was wondering if, in addition to reading this beautiful book and talking about it and with your friends and family and colleagues, how else can people get involved in nuclear non-proliferation? What activities are available? What would you suggest for somebody who is inspired by this work to actually make more of an impact?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Secretary General of Mayors for Peace, and I'm also serving as the chairperson of Hiroshima Peace Culture Foundation, which is now promoting culture of peace, culture exchange between Hiroshima and other people in the world. So I think quite recently I have received the artists from New Zealand. Then that is female artists of paintings, and then she was so moved by the paintings made by some hibakusha artists, kind of things. So I think such culture exchange between artists in the world and Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and I think it's really a good opportunity to promote cultural peace, which is the very basis of the people's feeling for desiring for peace. So I think currently we have received a lot of artists from the world, to have such, the cooperative, activities. So that, you said, Sandy, you never been to, Hiroshima, and so I think, please, come to visit, Hiroshima, in the future. So, yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You want me to add to
Yeah, I
that?
think just a little bit. I think we have a couple minutes left.
Yeah, it's hard to answer that question for an unknown audience. I don't know where folks are from, but I'll try to give a general answer and a more specific answer. Most important, I think, is to educate yourselves about the current dangers of nuclear weapons and nuclear war, and to share that information with others. And if you live in the United States, to make it an election issue. It has not been an election issue for a long, long time. It's crucial. I'll give an international answer. Mayors for Peace is an international association network of more than 8,500 cities in 166 countries and territories. And so we are trying to get to 10,000 members So wherever you are in the world, if your mayor is not already a member of Mayors for Peace, you might recruit them. Mayors for Peace offers a number of resources to its member cities that are cultural and educational resources. There's a children's art competition every year. The seedlings from atomic bomb tree survivors are available for planting in public places. There's a poster exhibit that can be held in city halls or at schools. There's curriculum for schools, and so on. If you're in the United States, which is a big problem right now, there is a national campaign called Back from the Brink, which actually has some resources and is very systematically trying to rebuild a real grassroots movement in this country. The website is preventnuclearwar.org. There are hubs in 25 different parts of the country. Resolutions are being adopted by city councils. There have been over 80 of those. 6 state legislatures have adopted resolutions. Back from the Brink has very specific demands and bottom line calls for the United States to lead a global effort to negotiate the elimination of nuclear weapons. And Back from the Brink is working closely with Mayors for Peace in the United States. And we have 2 resolutions in Congress which will take this very, strong position. If you're in New York, you have a very good peace action chapter, very active. We had a little vigil across the street in front of the U.S. mission this morning. So, there's lots of stuff online. Mayors for Peace website has lots of resources, mayorsforpeace.org/en if you want the English language version. And, if you start looking around, one thing will lead you to another. But I do encourage everybody to do something.
Great. Any other questions? Wonderful. Do you want to wrap up?
I have a small things to add to what you said. This book has a Japanese text, but I don't think there will be a Japanese version with your accompaniment. So maybe we should find a Japanese publisher who can publish this one with a totally different form of literature, because this is a prose poem, you said, but it's this final piece of Mr. Hara is a prose, sanbun. So basically, the whole thing is recreated to match with your artworks. And so maybe we need a Japanese version. And it's a summary of English.
Yes, you're suggesting we have the English at the end. I love that idea, and frankly, our translator is fully capable of inverting that and do the negative of what. I love that idea. Thank you.
Yeah, but the original text is right there. Question is how you divide up and transfer your artworks into the new.
I'm sure
Japanese
she
version.
can do that.
Anyway, with that suggestion,
Our translator, yes.
I'd like to conclude this wonderful session, and thank you so much for your candid discussion and sharing with your feeling and your emotion. Thank you very much for your participants coming here, and thank you for UN Books.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. The book is, of course, available for purchase. Buy a copy, have it signed, take a picture, share it on social media. That's a way to spread the word. And most of all, thank you very much for joining us at the United Nations Bookshop. There are exhibits upstairs also on nuclear non-proliferation if you want to take a look up there, the public area.
I want to thank Mary Glenn,
Oh, that is
who
I.
head of the
Thank
UN
you.
publication. Thank you. And her wonderful staff. Thank you.
It's so great to have this book. I believe very strongly in the connection between art and poetry and literature and the political situation. So you get cast a much wider net. So congratulations to everybody. It's a beautiful book. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Maher.